Hello, educators, parents, and friends. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Dr. Blissful, here to give you tips and tricks in elementary education. I'm also the author of the book, Breaking Free of Bullying, where I provide strategies to keep your kiddos and you safe, happy, and emotionally healthy. If you're a returning guest, Shaka, and how's it? Today I am feeling blissfully grateful. Super grateful to be here with you and give you some information that will help you with your kids who are struggling with reading. Before we begin, though, I want to have a little chat about something that I observed or have been observing for some time. And I know in the last session, we talked about when do kids stop running, and if you missed that, you can catch it in my other video. I think it clearly states that. My other concern is that I want to talk about is manners. And when did manners somehow go out the door, in my opinion? So I think manners are different for every social situation, especially like in the airport or on the airplane, in a restaurant in particular. I love teaching and I love my kiddos, but I point blank will not sit next to a booth or a table that has children because I need to relax and I need to enjoy my food without whining and arguing. And, I just want to have a nice meal and enjoy myself. So that's kind of a red hot topic. We were in an instance where we were on a plane, and my husband is way better at this than I am because I'm a very controlling person. Most teachers are. We control our classrooms, we control our environment, we control pretty much everything that goes on, what we're learning, to what books we read. I mean, yeah, we try to give our students choices, but for the most part, I'm pretty controlling. And I'm admitting that right now. So we were in the airport on the plane, and this toddler refused to put her seatbelt on. And the dialogue between the parent and the child was really off-putting for me. And I thought to myself, okay, who's in control here? The parent or the child? Now, if you want to negotiate at home, have a good time with that. But when we're on a plane and there's like 100 people on the plane trying to get settled, not to mention that I'm already full of anxiety because I don't like to fly at all. I used to when I was younger, but now that I have kids, I hate flying. So I'm already tense and anxious. And it sometimes feel like with certain parents, the whole world centers around them and their child. And I really want your opinion and feedback on this. I know my husband and I go back and forth. Oh, just ignore it. Easy for him to say. He didn't work with kids for 20 years, right? And I'm thinking in my head, oh, if that was my daughter, I'd be like, do we need to go to the bathroom right now? And it would change like that. Like, this is not a negotiation. You don't get to choose whether you want to wear your seatbelt or not. It is required, it is mandated for the safety of you and others. So it was quite vexing to say the least that, I was just really highly perturbed because I think of the anxiety. So I'm learning to put my headphones on and try to put them as loud as humanly possible and to not try to control the situation even with my thoughts. I want to know before we get into our lesson, I want to know in the comments what you think. How do we handle it? Do we ignore it? Um, do we say something? Do we not say something? Do we get the airline stewardess? It's really hard for me because if I say anything, my husband goes ballistic. But it really is annoying and it's really selfish and it's actually rude. That's my opinion. So I'd like to know your opinions because I'm trying to learn to grow in the way that I approach things and communicate with others. So I'm really interested to see everybody's thoughts. And then on the next one, we'll talk about restaurants. That's a whole other deal, right? Okay, let's go ahead and get into the lesson. Okay, so in our last session, if you recall, we were expanding on sight words and we were talking about, you have your sight word, give me a sentence, you put the sentence on the back of the flashcard, then you start a journal, you write the same sentence in the journal, they draw a picture, they trace over it, and then just you put it in a binder and it becomes a book that they can read and edit on their own. And I said that this was primarily for 4-year-olds to 3rd grade-ish, depending on how much they're struggling. So what do we do then for the kids that are struggling in end of 3rd grade, 4th, 5th? Well, if they're ELs, meaning English language learners, coming from another country, that might be appropriate because they are using their own natural language. And feel free to have them use their language of choice, their native tongue. So being part Mexican, I can do that because I understand Spanish, but I don't know like Tagalog or there's a lot of Ukrainian kids coming over now. Don't know anything about that. So it gets a little tricky, but thank goodness for Google. I know they have that app that translates everything for you. So you can have them talk. I know there's this app. I'll find it for you. They can say it in their language and then it'll like repeat in English. But keeping in mind that you want to start basic and you want to make sure that it's really simplified. So if you don't want to go through the whole rigmarole of the flashcards, you're going to have a stack of flashcards that are your fry words. We talked about that in last session, and a stack of sight words that are based on the dictation of what your child is dictating. Okay. Now, for those that are a little bit older, what you can do is move straight to the journal writing. So if you don't, if they're kind of really good at sight words, then we want to go ahead and we want to go to the next level. So for example, you can use rhyming, you can use synonyms, you can use antonyms on the back to develop whatever it is their needs are. So let me see what the standards are for 2nd and 3rd grade. So I'm kind of aligned with you. So in 3rd grade, we want to form and use the simple verb tenses. So I walked, I walk, I will walk. So past, present, future. So you might want to align your lesson with that. So what I would do then is I would go straight to my journal and simply put, write 3 things that you like, write 3 things that you know how to do. And they'll write it down. Again, at this point, we're not correcting spelling. That is not the goal for this lesson. The goal for this lesson is, remember, we're working on kids that are struggling. So the goal is to build that self-esteem and self-worth so that they're not intimidated by reading, okay? And making it really congruent to what they know in their life. So they're going to write the 3 things. They're going to write 3 things that they know about and say, okay, circle one thing out of the 6 that you want to talk about today. They'll circle it. Maybe it's Disneyland, maybe it's skateboarding, maybe it's cooking, maybe it's laying around, whatever that may be. Say, okay, now you can either write about it or draw about it. So again, you want to make sure that they have options. Always give them options because then they feel that they're in control and they're taking ownership of their learning. So they'll say, okay, I want to draw first. Great. Let them draw. There's no time limit, especially if you're at home. They want to draw for an hour. Hey, let them draw for an hour. Uh, it's especially if you're in the airport, right, or in the car or whatever. Let them draw. Who cares? It's not structured by a class. Now, if you're a teacher, you can put a timer and say, okay, you have 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever your time frame is to draw your picture, and then put the timer on. Once the bell rings, we need to move on to the next task. So the next task, if they're drawing, they're going to write about it. Okay, and we're not focusing on spelling or grammar. We're just having them write it. If they can't, then you can have them dictate it to you, just as we did before. And you're going to go through the same process. If they say, oh, I can't write. Okay, well, why don't you tell me the story? What's going on in the picture? And I'll write it for you. If they were really good at writing, then you know that's a strength that they have, and hone in on that. Some kids like writing over drawing. Some kids will like draw for 5 seconds and like, I'm done. That's okay too. Again, the purpose is to build that self-esteem. So whether you dictate it or they write it on their own, you might want to rewrite it for the penmanship and say, okay, we're going to practice our penmanship, so I'm going to rewrite it and have you trace it and go through that same process. What does it say? Oh, and another strategy you want to do is called RTI, response to intervention. Some people call it gradual release. Basically, what that means is I do it, you watch and listen. The second phase is we do it together. The third phase is you do it, I watch and listen. Okay, so that would mean I do it, you watch and listen. Mommy and me made cookies. We're going to do it together. Ready? Go. Mommy and me made cookies. So we're reading it together. Okay, now you do it and I watch and listen. And then they repeat. Mommy and me made cookies. They get stuck, they can ask for help, but it's the same procedure. Once they do that, you want to go ahead and put each one of the words on a flashcard. If they're fourth and fifth grade, you don't have to put and me on a separate card because you know that they know it. You could link these two together and maybe made cookies together. And then tomorrow or the next video, we'll talk about how to expand on that. So that's how you're going to differentiate from K3 to 3-5, depending on their level. So if you need to go back and watch my video on how I deconstruct it step by step, go ahead and do that. But that's basically how you're going to differentiate for the level of where your kiddo is at. If you're a new teacher and you need more information, leave me some comments down at the bottom. And if you liked this video or want to see more, go ahead and click like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Shaka, and have a blissfully grateful day. And we'll see you soon. Bye.